All right. Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Art Teachers Art Club. I'm so happy to see familiar names and faces. Hey, Marilyn. And I know Karen was trying to log on. Yep, she's still logging on. Norma, how are you? And hi, new people. Welcome. You don't have a camera? Oh, that's fine. That's fine. It's okay. We're happy to have you in any capacity that you will be here. So I have invited Sandy or Sandy, right? Sandy.
Sandy. It's Sandra, but I go by Sandy.
Okay, Sandy. I have been following her for years. I think almost since the beginning when I started this group on Facebook because she's an amazing art teacher. And as soon as I saw this project that she posted, I was like, oh my God, I gotta make sure she does this with us because it was so new and different and we've never seen anything like it before. So I got all excited. And Sandy was happy to do this for us. So I'm going to pass it over to Sandy. I'm going to highlight you also, spotlight you. There you are. And you can just take it away. And I'll monitor the chat and the
Okay.
doorbell for you so you don't have to worry about any of that.
Trying to figure out which way to lean to show me my stuff. I had hello everyone. I'm Sandy Queen and I am really happy to be with you. Even though right now I'm going on 12 hours being at school, I am still at school because that's where all my things are. But I'm really excited to share this with you. I'm trying to think. I think this lesson is about 3 years old. I'm pretty sure it's 3 years old, maybe a little more than that. Um, but it kind of picked up steam. It picks up steam every year. So that's kind of fun. But what I have in the presentation, and I will ask, how is the best way, Stephanie, to get this to everyone, but I have a complete lesson plan. And I know, a few people may have purchased it, and I'm sorry if you have, but if you haven't purchased it already on TPT, I'm going to give you the whole presentation, which has a couple of demo videos for your students. And it also has the link to the complete lesson plan. So I think that will be great. And you can have that and use it however you want to use it. But without kind of going into too much, I'm going to share my screen because if you're like me and you're an art person, which you are, you want to make the things. And so I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go to the presentation, I hope, and kind of talk you through how I introduce this with students and just show you a few of the things. Is everybody seeing the presentation? Thumbs up if you are. Okay. All right. So I want to say that I first kind of build excitement when they come in. I ask the students in advance, and I had this lovely lava lamp background playing on my screen. What happened to my Prometheum? It said, I'm tired. It's been 12 hours. I'm going home. And it shut down. But I like to have it on because kind of studying the movement of the lava lamp is really cool. This is typically the first real project that I do after elements and principles. So we've talked about all the things in the elements and principles, and specifically on this one, we get to drill down on organic versus geometric shapes and how to create forms out of simple shapes using light and shade. And so we look at that. We talk about contrast, repetition, variety, and symmetrical balance because you want your lava lamp to be symmetrical. So we'll talk about some tips and tricks for doing that and do some shading demos. But typically they come in and I'll have the lights low, my 70s playlist, make you a 70s playlist. They know the songs, they listen to the songs. They'll still make fun of us that are old enough to have been here when the songs happened, but that's okay. And they come into the low light, and I just ask them to kind of study the movement and make some observations about the movement. And so after that, we go through the essential questions, and I tell them, the end goal, end game is for you to make believable form. Like, we're trying to convince them that something that is 2-dimensional, it's flat, is actually 3-dimensional. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're also talking about mood, because that's why we had lava lamps back in the day. It was to set the mood. And so that is what we do. I do have this customizable agenda. Once you get, your presentation, make a copy, because this one is in TPT. So make a copy of the presentation, and then you can customize it. If you're like me, I like to put an agenda on the board every day so that when they come in, it's there and we can talk about what we're doing that day. We're big in this district right now. By the way, I'm in South Carolina, so I'm still on the Eastern Seaboard, but I'm quite a ways away from you. And that is why I sound like a Southerner, because I am. But, and I'm sorry about that. But I like to talk about success criteria. So what does it look like when I'm successful? And then right now we're working on teacher clarity. So we are looking at breaking down our standards and really looking at trying to, at least with our Art 1, which is our 9th grade, strike for intermediate low. This lesson, you could do it with upper elementary for sure. 4th and 5th grade, no problem. You could also do it with middle school, no problem. And with high school, they're going to rock it. They really are. And so you can scaffold it down, scaffold it up, depending on what age group you have. And then success criteria. How do I know when I've mastered it? What is mine supposed to look like? We're kind of fans of just handing them the whole rubric. Well, they can't really interpret that. That's a little bit too much. We got to chunk it and, show them what the success criteria are. So we start out with history of lava lamps, because they won't know. You ask them about lava lamps, and a lot of them will think that that is a new invention, and some of them will know that it's old, like they'll have found one before or seen one before. Now you can get them anywhere, and all kinds of crazy ones. I have a Bob Ross one that I really like, but we talk about that a little bit. The supplies, you have a more complete supply list. My presentations kind of work like a lesson plan, but the lesson plan goes into it a lot more. But these are kind of tailored for the students. Oops, let me go back one. I do talk about the objectives for them, but what I do is, this is the overall objectives, and for the day, when it's that particular day, it'll have that day's objectives, which we call learning intentions, and that day's success criteria. So if that's the day we're doing guided practice and making this little guy here, which is how we'll start out, then I'm only going to have the success criteria for this and not the whole thing. So breaking it down in chunks. And then moving on, we'll go through some vocabulary. It will be a review for mine, because we will have just finished elements and principles with sketch notes and mapping those out. Composition, they may not really understand what we're referring to. We're going to talk a lot about positive and negative space, positive and negative shapes in the lava lamp. Then there'll be a groovy shading demo. We say groovy a lot that week. It's fun to say. And so they'll do that. I'm going to skip past that. They'll do that guided practice after they watch the video. Then our students have 1-to-1 laptops. So I load that demo onto their laptop so they can watch it and start it and stop it as much as they need to. I have sometimes with some groups used my document camera and done it up front so we could, take it step by step. It kind of depends. It just depends on your class and what they need and what's going to be best for them. We do talk about the color wheel a little bit, but really only so much as we talk about analogous colors that lie beside each other on the color wheel. You don't really have to do much talking about that because that's on the video. Having a color wheel accessible for them, it can either be one they've done or one that's just posted in your room, is great for them to see. We do talk about symmetry. So the fact that these are going to be symmetrical, although I did have a student or two, can I do mine like a Z? And I'm like, sure, you can do it like that. So, you can do that with students. And then again, talking about composition and things like that. We do talk about how it can suggest mood. Typically, it's going to suggest kind of this calm, feeling. It's kind of hard to look at it and not feel calm. But also, what can the colors suggest? How do the colors make them feel? You know, what colors are they going to choose and why for their lava lamp? You'll get to decide on that today. There's another whole separate video for the final that you'll have access to. We have a mid-process critique called Glow and Grow. So they will go around, they'll get with a shoulder partner, or you can put them in table groups, and they have to give each person you know, a compliment based on what they're seeing, using vocabulary. I'm kind of walking around listening for this because I'm not the only one that can give academic feedback. They can as well. And then grow is like a suggestion. I'm a big fan of the compliment sandwich. So glow, grow, glow might be better as the way that we do it. And then the final critique will be for, you know, when they're all finished, for us to put them all up and kind of talk about them collectively as a group, discussing a few of the things that you see down there. Student examples, you'll have a few of those so they can see. These are some specific criteria that I'm looking for. These, again, this success criteria would be broken down and extrapolate a few of the things out of here and put on the agenda for the day, depending on what I was trying to teach them that day. Because I'm not going to teach the whole thing all, you know, all at one time. I do have 90-minute classes. I know I'm really blessed and I see them every day, but you totally could do this. I taught elementary for a number of years too. I could see you, if you see them once a week, maybe doing that 2 times and doing a little less with the history and things, coming one week and doing the practice, coming one week and doing the final, or better than that 3 times. Okay. But here's the complete lesson plan. So if you click, oh, my link is not working. And if it doesn't, I will totally fix that because I don't know why that's not working. I just put it on there. So we'll see. But that is that. Let me see if I can just click on it now and fix it before I leave you. There we go. So let me show you what that is like real quick, and then we'll start making things. All right, so you're going to have everything from soup to nuts. So you've got, what I did was I just used the National Core Art Standards, since our state standards might be slightly different, and put down the anchor standards for that. You've got a very complete materials list. You've got your instructional resource list, including the link to the lava lamp background that I couldn't get to stay on, and the link to the presentation. So you can get the presentation through the lesson plan, or the lesson plan through the presentation, but you're going to have both. And then your prior knowledge, your concepts and vocabulary. I don't spell them out right here because you're art teachers and you know, but I do spell them out on the presentation for the students. Okay. I do setup and cleanup, your objectives, your instructional procedures broken way down, and your summative and formative assessment. I did include the summative rubric that we use, and this is kind of what we use on our guided practice, just kind of little make and take. Another thing I do sometimes is I have the little dot stickers, a red, a green, and a yellow. I'll put that a green on there if you're all at a go. Every goal that I ask you to do, all the look fors, all the success criteria you met, you'll get the green sticker. It's on the back. It's just for them to see. If I feel like, you know, you're kind of getting there, they might get the yellow because we're kind of in a caution area, and then they'll get a red if we've got some things we need to meet. That doesn't mean, oh, yours is bad. It means I need to see you, or you need to see me during the course of this day, so that we can, you know, do something before we move forward. That's the rubric. It's a rubric that you can fill in. It's, you know, it applies to everything that I do, but you can change these questions if you want to, but they're very open-ended and they kind of go for everything. So,
You are amazing.
oh,
That is
well, I don't know about amazing.
so well,
Wordy.
very thorough and
Okay.
super clear, and wow,
I
thank
hope so. Okay, so now what I would like to do is get out of the share. So let me stop sharing. There we are. Hi. And I am going to switch to my document camera, and we're going to start making. But before I do that, does anybody have any questions about that? You can type them in the chat, or, and I'll let me pull the chat up to the side there. Yeah.
Or unmute yourself and
Yeah, or just ask.
just
Yeah,
ask.
because
Yep.
sometimes other people have that same question. So we're good? Oh, we got somebody coming in.
Yep, somebody coming in.
Art teachers just want to art. That's what we want to do. We don't want to talk about it. We want to make it. So okay. So what I'm going to do, I hope this works because my technology is, I got a love-hate relationship with it right now. But what I'm going
I
to
think
do,
we all do always. All of us. Yeah.
what I'm going to do is try to switch my camera to my document camera. Let's see. Yay. Okay.
Alright.
Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, we're good. We're cooking. All right, let me knock into some things. Okay, so please just I'm kind of turned away from my screen now, so I won't see anything in the chat because I'm going to be looking at this.
I
So if
got
you
you.
need something, you're going to need to unmute and say it to stop me, okay? Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on going. So the first thing I'm going to show you is um a couple of lessons that I get a lot of feedback on are my chalk pastel lessons. And I know we can do chalk pastel things with a lot of different kinds of pastels. And I know Faber-Castell might cost a little more than some of the kinds I've had in the past, but they are fantastic. You obviously don't have to have a set this big. They come much larger, or they come in a set of 12, I believe and you could totally do this lesson with a set of 12 because basically you're going to need two analogous colors, a black and a white. That is all you're going to need for each student. If anything, order, a set of 8 for each table and how many ever tables you have. And then like an extra white, you'll see this. I've got an extra white here. But an extra white and an extra black and you're good to go. But these are the Faber-Castell soft pastels. And I believe Blick does not have a set this big. Amazon does, but you have to watch that. The prices change all the time. And Saks Arts and Crafts does. NASCO, I think, does. So I don't know who you use in New York, but I thought I would tell you that because I do get better results with these. I have noticed than I do with, I've got some like alpha color that are kind of old and some craypaw ones. And this is chalk pastel. You could easily do this with oil pastel too. But I just like the blendiness of the chalk pastels. Both are very messy. So one thing that I'll have the students have always is a paper towel, wet paper towel. That kind of thing is really great to have. But the first thing that we are going to do is work on our little sample. So I asked you to have just a piece of scrap paper. It doesn't really matter the size, just something big enough. I use my scraps. So just something big enough for them to practice on. Guided practice for me, I'm a big fan of I do, we do, you do. And so I almost always do guided practice. That way, if I need to touch it, I can touch it on theirs. But I try to be very hands off on their final. So that's kind of my thinking on that. But after we have kind of studied, and I like to put that lava back up while we're doing this. But after we've kind of studied it, what I want you to do is I need everyone to pick out two analogous colors that you would like to use. I've got a green and a blue there, so I think I'm gonna go with a red and a hot pink now. And just kind of get that ready. And then you need your white and you need a black. Okay, did I have a black? There we go. All right, so that is gonna be all that you're gonna need per student.
Sandy, I'm probably jumping the gun here,
Yeah.
but quickly, what do you use to fix it when it's
Yes,
finished?
okay, that's really good question.
Yeah.
So what I use, and I think I actually put that on the list, and I put that I usually fix it instead of letting the students fix it. Uh, a good can of workable fixative goes a long way. I'm trying to think of the brand, but I know it just says workable fixative.
Mhm.
Um, and I like that because when they're storing them, workable fixative is not permanent. It still could get a little bit on it. Um, But if we do that, then I, do that at the end, with the, express intention of it may be going in the art show, knowing that if someone touches it, we're probably still gonna have a problem, because nothing is gonna completely fix it. I do notice when I use the workable fixative, I can't talk without seeing you. This is annoying to me. So hold on one second. There we go. I do notice when I use the workable fixative that it seems like it dulls the colors a little tiny bit. Now, I know that that's because it's wet, and you say, well, that's dummy. It's because it's wet and it's going to dry and it's going to look great. No, it actually dulls it a little bit. It just darkens it a little bit, and I like the high contrast. So even though I use it, there's been nothing that I found that's perfect. Cheap hairspray, cheap aerosol hairspray. And I know, I don't try to kill the environment any more than I have to, but I also want this art to last. So I kind of, usually do that. I will take also, and I put that in the lesson plan. I don't think I put it under materials, but I put it under note.
Mhm.
I will take, a big sheet of newsprint and make a pocket, and everyone just to even store it over, on the cart until we have our art show, because we don't send anything home till the end of the semester. I will make them either put a hinge on it and put a newsprint cover, or if you newsprint's kind of cheap, just fold it in half and let them stick it in there, because it even
Right,
gets on the back. It's really kind of
right.
everywhere. And I
Yeah.
have them stored on the drying rack in between, just like it's a wet work, even though it's
Okay,
not.
okay.
Uh, you
You
don't have a
wouldn't
dry.
use clear coat? I mean, there was a right? There was a clear coat spray at one point?
Not for this. I've only used the workable fixative, and I've
Okay,
only used, the hairspray.
hairspray,
Now
got
I've
it.
done clear coat for color pencil, but I've not tried it with that. So
Okay,
if somebody knows of something better, throw that in the chat and people could get it. I'm trying to think of the brand that I use, but it is not a clear coat. So that is
it's
that.
a white can, right?
A white can, and it says
Yeah, I'm seeing
workable
it in my
fixative.
brain too, but I
Yep,
can't see the
yep.
name. I
It's,
can't
I
remember
mean,
the
if
name.
I could get up, it's right over there in that cabinet, but I don't want to get up.
It's
So,
okay.
okay. So I'm gonna go back, but if anybody does know, you can throw it in the chat. I can, since both of the documents that I'm sharing with you today are Google, anything that I think of after we talk, if I add it, you're gonna still get it. So,
Great.
if I remember, I will take a picture of what I've got and put it in there for you.
Thank you.
All right, so here we go. All right, so taking either one of your colors that you picked out for your analogous, I want you to think about drawing some organic shapes that are blob-like, okay? Now, lava lamps, it's coming from the bottom, so we're always going to start with the bottom, and you can kind of think about the way that it moves. If you look at it, it kind of starts to pull apart. It kind of comes up and pulls apart and separates. So it's kind of good to have one that looks like it was joined, but it is pulled apart. So you can kind of see that. And then just a couple other, wherever you want them, blobby type shapes. What I talk to them about is variety of organic shapes. We talk a little bit about the difference between, I'm going to get this piece of black paper out from under here because that's kind of messing with my brain. We do talk about right now that this is a repetition of organic shapes, but that we want a variety, of them. So we don't want anything to be it can be the same, but we want to kind of change it up some. And so the first thing that we're going to do is knowing that we're going to have two colors. So you're going to look at your two colors. These are mine. And I'm going to try to determine which one do I think is the lightest and the brightest. Now, I don't go into a lot because this is with beginners, the difference between value and intensity here, but you can have that individual conversation as you're going around with some of the students that are like, which one should I use? And it doesn't really matter, except to say that the light source is coming primarily from the bottom. So even though red is darker, my red looks like it's more intense than my pink. So I think I'm going to float my red toward the bottom. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to start coloring, filling in, shading in, and stop me if I, go too fast. You're going to just start shading in your blobs halfway up. We're going to be making a gradient. So we're shading the bottom half with the brightest or most intense color or lightest color. Not really doing a whole lot with worrying about whether I go outside of the edge of that form right now, because that's not going to be a big deal. I wouldn't even think about overly blending it at this point, just kind of leave it on there. And I did put a note for safety. If you have students that the kids are going to start working with it and say, can we have gloves? And the thing is, I feel like they need to actually have that tactile experience where they're feeling it. So I'm not a fan of gloves unless if they have like accommodations, like they have sensory issues, and you will have students that have that, you might want to provide those, but then you kind of get into that sticky situation with, well, why does she get them or he get them and I didn't get them? So, which you can't share. So you can think about how you want to handle that. Also think about whether there are any latex allergies in your room, because that is a growing concern. And then what you want to do is fill in the other side of the shape with your other color, coloring kind of down onto that color sum that you just had. Just kind of doing that everywhere that you were. Okay, and at this point, got a lot of chalk on there. At this point, then you can take, especially if this is elementary, you want to talk to them about how I'm holding it down and I'm using one finger, not my whole entire hand, to blend where they touch. And then after I do that, what's easiest is to kind of blend one side down to the middle, blend the other side down to the middle, and then where they touch, go back and forth. And this is where you can introduce the word gradient. And I'm not even too concerned about whether I come outside of the shape right now. I don't necessarily want this shape to be symmetrical. And so I continue doing that. Sometimes if you've got pink on a finger, you might have to use another finger, or that is why they've got the wet tissue, because if the colors are very similar like mine, they'll just start to become mud. You'll just have all of it blended together. Mine is looking like it's not very intense and bright, but it actually is in person. Just not really able to see that right now. And so I'm kind of using different fingers. A red finger and a pink finger is fine. Okay. And then you can either have them working on a piece of newspaper. I didn't put it as a material thing. Or what you can do is have one piece of newspaper in the front. I'm just going to show it to you on this table and have them do like that on the center of the table on the newspaper. I didn't put it on here for now because it doesn't matter because I'm by myself, but it might matter if I've got a class of 30, which I can often have in our Art 1, which is primarily 9th grade for me. Okay, so now after I have done that, and if you need something, say, stop, wait, I need something. I need to ask you something. So now I'm going to take my white, and this is where the magic really starts to happen, because where's the light source on a lava lamp? Where's it coming from? Top or bottom?
Bottom.
Coming from the bottom. Yes, it is. The top is just a cap. In fact, if you take the cap off, you'll see it's just a bottle. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to make that happen. We want to convince them of that. So what we want to do is start at the bottom with your white. You can, on this bottom one, come over on the sides a little bit, but you just want to color down on top of that. Just here and there. And then on the bottom of these forms. every single one of them. You don't want to cover up everything you did. You just want to do a little highlight. And this is where we could talk about highlight. This is where you could reference for the first time that they might have heard it, tints and shades, because when we add white to a color, we're creating a tint of that color. But we're also just creating this highlight. And then they can take a finger. They don't want to overblend here. You really, and they just, oh, if they overblend, it's not a big deal. They can bring it back. Let's say I overblended that a bit. Oh, my chalk is cracking. I can and put another, I can punch up the contrast. We want to mention that word contrast. We're trying, I anyway am trying to reference the elements and principles that they just did myself. And now at this point, you're going to have that type A person in your class go, can I use my cloth and wipe it off the other parts? No, don't do it, because it's tempting to want to do this. And sometimes I forget to catch them and they're over there doing that to beat the band. And then I go over there and later it changes, it turns the color of the paper to washed out, and it also can cause the paper to curl up. So you're going to want to tell them before they even start this, don't do it. We've got something we're going to do that's going to clean it up, but don't let that be it. Don't let that be it. All right. So even though it might not feel perfect to them at this point, and they might be like struggling to want to overblend. And by the way, if also you felt like, oh, I got rid of too much of my red, you can throw a little bit back in there. You'll never, though, be able to get it as intense as it was before. Because why? Because now we have taken down the saturation. And how much of that or how little you say of that depends on what level you're teaching. Okay. All right. So now we're going to shake it off. You don't have any of that on there. And we're going to go with our black. Now, when we go in with our black, we're going to do what I call push in. So not outline, but push in to the edge. So it feels kind of like I'm outlining at first because I'm pushing into the edge and kind of really making decisions about my overall shape. But then I'm blending it out. So I'm pushing in, but then blending it out. So you're going to take your black and kind of go around almost like you're outlining, push in, kind of bring it out in a kind of random way. You don't want that to look too perfect. Try not to mix onto your white, because then you're going to make a tone and it's going to get muddy. And we're trying not to have it get muddy because it's lava and it's bright and it's lit up. Anytime you feel like you need to get too much dust, that newspaper on the center will be your go-to. And they just need to really kind of make some final decisions about how, I use the word wonky, and they kind of, I know it's not a word. I know that. In my heart of hearts, I know it. But I don't know of another way to describe it better. Because what I want them to be able to do is make a very organic shape. I do not want to look around, not with theirs compared to someone else's. I don't want to look around and we have a bunch of just circle, 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 circle. We don't want that. Because that is not how lava moves. And they will have looked at that for a while, and you can have the lava on. And if you see someone, because that YouTube thing, I think it's like 4 hours of lava lamp ambiance.
Wow.
So you can have that on, and if you walk over and somebody's doing that, you can be like, okay, how is what you're doing different from this? And there can be some perfect circles that are made. Sometimes when it pulls apart, it makes perfect little circle, and other times it's more like this. Okay, now there we go. And now I'm going to clean my fingers a little bit, and what we're going to look at is taking a little bit of our black dry my hands. So go where you got some black on the edge. And here's where you want to push in a couple of places on top of your lava. So go in where you made black and on top of your blobs, hit them here and there with a little bit of that shadow. And that's where the magic really starts to happen. It stops looking like flat and it starts looking two-dimensional. Also, fun, take a little bit of your more intense color with a clean finger. I'm going to use my pinky. It's the only thing clean right now. And cast yourself a little bit of ambient light, sorry, not ambient, around as if your lava is like, you know, casting its own little reflections in light. So depending on your colors, this one's a little messy because it's older. I pulled these things out of a folder. I didn't actually do it this semester. I haven't done it since last semester. But very easy to clean up. And so for me, they would get that little check plus, or check minus or whatever grade, or you could do your little circle dots or however you want to do it to know if they've mastered this. Success criteria for this. I would ask them to help me come up with it and possibly brainstorm it and start listing it on the board if we were referring back to it, but it's usually on my agenda for that day. That customizable agenda that I have on there, I usually have my success criteria. And it doesn't say success criteria because they don't know what that is or not necessarily know what that is. They could probably guess. What I say is, how will I know when I mastered it? How will I know when I mastered making these two-dimensional shapes look three-dimensional? And we'll say things like, all of your shapes are not completely uniform or geometric. So we're going back to that. They are organic. We'll say things like the light source appears to be coming from the bottom because the highlights are on the bottom. We'll say things like it's not uniform in terms of the shadows and highlights on the actual blob itself. And I really don't know. You can call it shape, or you can call it blob, or you can call it form. I end up calling it blob a lot because, I mean, really, that's what they're thinking of it as. You can say things like you will have mastered it when you have a clean edge and not an outline. I would even say you could go as far as to talk about in another place or time, what is the difference between edge and outline? You know, outline being I have a line around this that's black all the way around, and edge, which is what we want instead, being the lava stops and the background starts, not because the line separates it, but because it's a completely different value and different color. And so you may say something like that. You might talk about craftsmanship. How do I know when it's neat? Because Miss Queen, isn't the whole thing smeared already anyway? So that's not neat. Well, what if I talk about the fact that my edges are not rough and jagged? What if I talk about I don't see, I don't see texture like where it's colored in like that. I don't see it muddy where they've overblended the whole thing like this. We might put muddy in quotes, but it's not going to look as appealing that way, nor is it going to have as much a light effect that way. So I would definitely highlight success criteria for them in that. Any questions about that so far before I talk about how we make our final one? How are yours looking? I'm going to come back off this for a sec and see if anybody wants to hold theirs. Uh-oh, I went off video altogether. Let me do this. Does anybody want to hold theirs up? I'd love to see.
I've got mine. I don't know if it looks right or not.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, these are beautiful.
Um,
And they're so easy, aren't they? I mean, I feel kind of like, what's that, imposter syndrome when when
yeah.
everybody keeps telling you, oh, this is such a great lesson, and they're thinking it's not that hard. And it's really not. And all of us can figure out how to do it. I just thought of doing it. So, love them. Oh my gosh, they're great.
I
Okay.
didn't have chalk, but I had my oil, so this
Look
was oil.
at you. Oh, wow. I would love to do it. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Very nice. Did you notice any problems with any aspect, or could this lesson just go as easily into oil pastel as chalk?
You have to blend more, so I think it would be harder to do because, you really have to work at that blending.
Right, right, right. Okay, that's
I
cool.
used colored pencils because that's what I had.
Oh, awesome.
Haven't
And
blended.
it's gorgeous.
Whoops, where is it? Okay, yeah.
So you've got to have a little more skill, and that might be a way to give an extension for, students who really master it, because making gradients with color pencil, we're doing hyper realistic, well, not hyper, photorealistic color pencil right now with R3. And just starting with gradients, they're really struggling to blend. They, if only they could just smooth it with their finger, they would.
I don't work in the public school system. I have my own art school, and since
Wow.
COVID, I'm only teaching private students. So I have
Oh,
a lot of private students that have
mhm.
already done blending with the colored pencil, and I think they're going to love this.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I like it too, because you can really make something nice in a small amount of time. So,
I'm wondering if you couldn't do something. I mean, you might be telling us about this, but I'm already thinking, could I cut out this black thing and then cut out a piece of the plastic, clear plastic, and
absolutely.
put over it and
I
make.
wasn't going to tell you that. I love that idea. Yeah. I actually, I think there are a lot of things, and that's what I love about art teachers, is because I can give you a little bit of an idea, and y'all are going to take it further. And then if I'm lucky enough, people share it with me, and then I'm like, I get to benefit from that. I love that idea, because that would also give you that texture that looks like glass.
Well, you could
Um,
laminate it, right? You could
yeah,
laminate,
you could
yeah,
laminate it.
laminate it.
That would laminate, and that would solve your whole "we can't touch it" issue too. So that would be cool. I did see a person who was cutting theirs out and mounting it on black paper instead of doing it on black paper. Um, but they were, in other words, they were doing the blobs themselves and cutting the blob shapes out and putting them on black paper. And I don't see why that would be a problem. I
How
mean,
would you do that without smudging it all over the place?
well, it would be kind of smudgy,
Yeah.
but they said they do it that way, and I was like, however you need to do it. They were just saying that with elementary students, it was harder for them to blend and get a clean edge, and if
Right.
they cut them out, and possibly if you laminated and then cut them out, then you wouldn't,
Ah.
then they could even play around with the organization of how they. Ooh, what would also be cool is if you made a big class one and everybody's their own blob, and they pick their shape, and you make this huge one, and then are you at the top, or are you floating down here at the bottom? Are you big or are you little? Are you pulling apart, or are you a little circle? That could be fun. It could be a lot of fun.
A
Okay.
giant size lava lamp.
Giant size lava lamps. If y'all do that, somebody send me a picture for sure. All right. So now we're going to go so you can see some of, there we go. Some of the examples just that I have left over. These are students who moved, left their work, and with the exception of one senior who said she wanted me to have hers, which I was like, no, you need to take it. But she wanted me to have it. And I said, okay, I will take it. So this is all I have left. But on the video, when I do the demo on the video, you'll see a whole class set. I have these little clips on my wall, on my cabinets, and that's how they put them up in the day so that all the other classes can see them coming in. So you'll see, it might even be 2 classes worth that I did it with. So you'll see them all on the video. But what we're going to do now is I want to talk you through the difference between, and you can decide this, with upper level, you wouldn't have to do this, but symmetry is such a big deal and they struggle so much. Templates. Okay. So what I did was, I'm trying to get back far enough. I cut, these are the same length, which is 18. The paper is 12 by 18 black paper for the final, okay? I cut, these are, I think, 5 or 7 by 18 is what I started with. And I cut them for you because the ones that I had, I threw away because I don't know how that happened, but they're gone. And I haven't taught this in a while. So I had the students make them. They made their own the year that I did it. But I have had some teachers say that's a lot of paper just to cut it up and have a stencil. And it is, but you know, you can decide, do you want to make them? Do you want to have the students make them? Do you want to have them make them and share them or make up their own? You know, you may have some feelings about that, but that was kind of the standard one. They could do, you know, anything they want to do with the shape. My Bob Ross one is straight with just 2 edges like this. So I wanted to, you know, show that. Those kind that have the little bent thing at the bottom, you know, just lots of different options. But you could do this out of scrap cardboard if you didn't want to use this. Maybe even if you did them smaller cereal boxes brought in, you know, you could find a way to do it without wasting paper, somehow. Okay. But I had them make their own, and they were able to then put it down and trace it and trace it. You can just freehand it too if you're in a, you know, class where they can make it symmetrical, because it's got to be symmetrical. Because I talk about the fact that these things are manufactured. So the manufacturer is not spitting out one with one side looking like this and the other side kind of looking like that. They got to look the same. So we're going to go ahead and move on now. So I'm going to go back to my document camera. And we're going to look at doing our final. Got a little something on my paper there. And they would have their practice beside them, excuse me. And at this point, you could decide to let them venture off into a new color, especially if they really hated their color combo the first time. And some did. Some were like trying to use, even though I told them analogous, which are side by side on the color wheel. And I said, if you go across the street with complementary, you're going to kind of mix to make a neutral in the middle, which is not as bright. Some, you know, you'll see ones that you just don't get over there in time, and they've mixed 2 that are really dark instead of having a bright and a light. I mean, there are just some things that could happen. So you can either make them stick with what they've done because they practiced it, or give them the option to do another one. But what they're going to start out with is their template, and they have to decide kind of how wide they want the one to be. And what I typically did, and I don't know if you can see, well, you can't right now. Let me come back to my examples for a sec. Whoops, I went off altogether. Right here. So what you can see is that they look on the side, they look kind of white, but then they also mimic the color that they chose for the lava. And so we don't want a really hard line there. We want a kind of broken line that's got both the color and just some little pops of white. But I would have them start with one of their main colors, not with a white. And they can add pops of white. So if you would, you're going to go ahead and pick your 2 colors again, just like you did before. And to draw, is that blurry? It looks a little blurry. Maybe that one's just blurry. Because that doesn't look blurry. Is that okay, everyone?
You're good.
Okay. So I think I'm going to go with, I just want a different color because I just want one. What do I want to do? Do I want to do a yellow? Do I want to do a red? I might do an orange and a pink. I think that's what I'll do. Okay, so I am going to take one of my colors. It doesn't matter which one. I would do the one that you think you want to have the most of. So I think I want to have more orange than I do pink. So I'm going to do it with orange and just outline. And if they've used charcoal, a template, they can kind of blend over it And then they can decide how wide or how skinny they want their lava lamp to be here. But probably centering it is best. So if they have, this is where we talk about negative space. If their negative space or negative shape over here is about, this far from the edge, like a third of the way, or, like that far from the edge, then that's what they're, 1/4 the page, that's what they're going to want to do on the other side. They sometimes need a little tiny bit of help with that. If you're doing it at home and obviously don't have a template, because I didn't tell you to have one, just draw two sides that are symmetrical.
Can you
Yeah.
show us what the bottom of your template looks like?
Yes. So let's see. Sometimes when I move this document camera, it goes dark. So I will try to pull this back. There's my phone and all my mess, and I'll try to pull that up. Is that better?
Yes. Thank you.
And this was my template. So for that one. And like I said, it depends. And they could do it that way, or they could do it that way. This is one that you were maybe you were noticing the blue when it had a flat top. Okay. But like the standard lava lamp, the skinny that everybody does, it kind of looks like a bullet. Those kind of things. We used to have a ton of like newspaper around, but it really it's better if it's kind of thicker paper. Cardboard would look great, but it's hard to cut. So you got to figure out what thing you'd rather deal with. All right. Now, what they don't understand, and we have to help them with, is that cylinders are round and that this is a cylinder. And so they will want to just put a straight line right here. And we know that if we're going to create form, we also must do it on the bottom. So we are going to go ahead and make a line that curves down there. And how much it curves, it doesn't have to curve, this much. And that depends on their view. Usually if we're sitting at a table, it's kind of, maybe this or slightly less than this, like that. But we can make some adjustments in just a minute because we'll be shading that as well. We're just not going to do it till the end because then we'll drag our hand all over it. The other thing you can do is their template, because they're going to throw it away anyway. If they're one of those classic hand resters, they drag their hand all over their work. If they're shading in a blob, they can put it under their hand. And so they won't be dragging that around, causing their contrast to go away. Okay, so now we get to make our blobs. And I usually suggest that they're going to have a minimum of 5 and that they need to have them be almost as big as their palm, at least something be as big as their palm. And then, down to something about the size of a quarter. With some of them, and I'm going to come back and show you mine over here again. You can see that some of the students noticed when we were watching let me pull that down. When we were watching the video of the lava, they noticed how it would pool up at the top before it falls back down, because that's what it does. And so some of them made some of it kind of pooling up at the top that's overlapping. And we didn't really talk about that with our practice, but how do we show overlapping? So you can see that, and we'll look at that when we start doing it, but you can see, for example, on this pink one right here, how we have a little cast shadow under there so that it looks like it's over it, a little cast shadow under that. They kind of really have to think about the way light works. They're also at the bottom of the lava lamp. Do you see how we have the white kind of surrounding the shapes? Because we want to show that light showing up from there. So now we're going to start filling in with our shapes. I bet if you're like me, you already did it. So go ahead and decide how your blobs are going to look, where they're going to be. what you're gonna make them look like. I think I'm gonna do 2 coming out of the bottom here. Maybe not touching, but those kind of did. Oh, well. And I'm gonna start bringing it up. I like to have one that looks like it used to attach to one. I think I'm gonna do a couple pulling up here. We have to explain to them why we don't want this. You know what I mean? Because they'll do that. And you're like, nope, you don't want that. And then usually a few little ones. Little wonky ones like that. Because what the lava does when we start studying it, it goes to the top, it sits there for a little bit, and it gets heavy and it falls back down to the bottom. And that's when it keeps going. Okay, so once we have that, now they know the steps for this. So they're of their 2 colors, they're going to decide which one they want to be at the bottom. This time I'm going to do, I think I might do, now I'm going to still do my orange at the bottom. Because it's the more intense, and I'm gonna do my pink at the top. Stephanie, how are we on time?
We are great. It's just about 8 o'clock.
Okay.
At about, just so everybody knows, at about 8:15, I'm gonna post the attendance sheet. Please, everybody sign the attendance sheet. I need that for documentation. And if you need the CTLE credit and certification, you could put in your social info and your birth date. But everybody really needs to sign the attendance sheet so that I can prove attendance, basically. Karen, I hope we finally got you squared away with your certificate from last time.
Okay, so once you get your 2 colors in, go ahead and start blending out. Just a reminder, it's kind of easier. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, you guys know this, but it's easier to blend from the bottom and then with another finger blend down from the top. And then you can take even a 3rd finger and blend them together. And again, you can either do this for your students and then let them see the video to do it if they need, you know, to refresh. Or it's also good for those students who weren't there on the day of your video. If you don't video your demo, then at least you've got the one on the presentation already that you can, you know, show them. All right, once you've done that, okay, now we have to make a little bit of a decision here, okay? This will be very unfamiliar to them, but this little thing right here, I'm going to highlight it a bit. That part of the ellipse. They won't know the word ellipse. Probably should add that to the vocabulary. But if we could see through it, what it would do is this, right? Something like that. But my blobs are kind of covering it up, okay? But I am going to have it right here. So depending on how much space you have, not only are you going to put white on the bottom of your blobs, but anywhere where you can still see the bottom of the ellipse of that lamp, you want to also put it, okay? And then you can highlight your blobs as well.
What do you do if they insist on using a pencil first?
I don't let them, and I'll tell you, I mean, I'm not a fan. I like whatever media we're doing, that's what I want to sketch in. And
Right.
I want them to get in the habit of that. You know, with paint, it's okay. But with other things like color pencil, for example, here they are wanting to sketch with a pencil, which is carving grooves into the paper that the color pencil is then going to rest in and show up.
Right.
So I like them to get in the habit of sketching with the medium. They could do it. I don't guess it would hurt anything to do that, but I just want to break them of it. I want them to just be real tactile with this. You can't mess it up. Trust yourself. I mean, they're blobs. It's not like we're, gonna not be able to, we're not all trying to make the same one and make it look the same. But if it's a stressor for them, let them try it on their guided practice without it at least. Say, try it and see if you can be successful. And if they can't, or if it's stressing them out too much, your students.
Right.
I'm putting some orange back because I got a little bit muddy on that one. And that is what I'll say is the biggest thing that I saw, is students wanting to overblend or taking their white too far. So always put it in later, but you can't take it back off and have the same intensity. You can put it back on, you can put it on, but taking it off, you can't really do. All right, so now I'm going to give you a sec. And while you're doing that, I want to talk to you about this bottom part. They could go ahead and push in with their black up here if you wanted them to, but I like to have them do everything they're going to do with color first. But it really wouldn't matter. Whatever, you feel like you want to do there is probably going to work just fine. But I am going to intensify my orange because I'm just seeing that it got a little, because I keep on talking about the contrast with mine. I really want them to see that I want it to have that strong contrast. But now what we want to do, and I'm going to come back to the examples I have over here for a sec, is notice how we've got the shine in the middle, and we talk about the way cylinders have stripes that follow the form. So if the form gets wider at the top, the stripe gets wider at the top. If the form is, I think all of these, this one gets wider at the bottom, that one gets wider at the top. The one I'm doing, it gets wider at the top. So my stripes are going to kind of go that way, but generally, here's how I have them start. I'm going to show you because I want the white to really be like strong. So I am going to come back over here. Okay. So what I'm going to do this time is put the white in first, and I'm going to come right through the middle with this, and then I am going to blend it in the same direction, like a smiley face, like the other part of it went. Okay, kind of like that. Now I'm going to put some more back on, but right now that's what I've got. And then I'm going to go with my lightest color followed by my brightest color followed by my slightly darker color. So then I'm going to move into my orange. And then I'm going to move into my hot pink. And then what I'm going to do is use separate fingers to blend, and then a third finger to make that gradient fade. I told them, because they know the word ombre, because a few years ago everybody was getting their hair ombre. And so I was like, it's ombre, but with color. That's what a gradient is. All right, and then what I want to do is where that white and that color touch, I want to go back and forth over that. Again, shaking off the dust onto that newspaper I have in the middle. Then I'm going to go back and forth over that white and blend it like swooping like side to side like this, not straight. Because if we straighten it, we flatten it. And we don't want to flatten it. And what I'm going to do is come back in now that I have that with another layer of white. Really hard, and do that again. Now I have some white on my finger. Watch this. Bring it down here. Maybe bring it down here a little bit. Okay. You have it. And you can go more intense if you want to. I like to take my white at the end and highlight some things. I'll go ahead and do it a little bit here. Okay, just some, I don't know how well this is, if it's showing or not.
Is anybody else covered in pastel? I'm completely covered in pastel powder. Oh my
My
God.
table is quite pretty right now. Very, very pretty. All right, now our black. And again, the word I use that helps, I guess, keep it seeming like edge instead of outline is I call it pushing in on my forms. So I go to my form and it starts like I'm outlining, kind of with the side of the chalk. And I pull away from it, kind of scribbling. And then I blend that out. You're not trying, and this is one thing that I had a hard time with some of the kids getting. I'm not trying to cover the whole background. I don't. In fact, if I pull back in a little bit and show you the ones that I have over there, you'll see that you can see that the black that I'm using is a little deeper than the warm black of the paper. And so that you'll be able to see that it's not all the way colored in. And it gives that murky glass-like effect to not have it all colored in. And this again is where you can kind of really play up your forms and make them a little more dynamic. So not just outlining, pushing in and blending out. Sometimes if it's a big space like I've got up here, I'll just scribble around through it a little bit, very inconsistently. Okay, and they can also do that outside of it. So you're going to see me now. Clean. It's the magic eraser, this black. Because now I'm going to blend it out here. Again, not coloring in the whole thing, but I'm blending it out here and cleaning up all of the things that I don't like. And then the magic, a little bit of black from the background gets on some of your lava. And a little bit of ambiance, a little bit of ambient light. Bring some of that pink and bring some of that orange. So it's kind of a transfer. Take a little bit of this and add a little bit of that. And again, as long as they're not trying to make it too muddy. And they can do all of that. Like that. And shake it off. How's everybody doing? Okay?
Think so.
Okay. Everybody's quiet. I don't know if that's like when you're eating and it's really good and so you don't hear anything, or you know you've made a good meal because no one is talking.
Concentrating.
Concentrate. Now, I want to show you this last little finishing touch. So do you see how I just hit a little bright white that I don't blend out at all? A few little highlights that you don't blend out at all, little well-placed highlights, especially along your glass. But watch this. Not consistent, not a whole white line. Some you can blend, some you leave. Your white is what you want to make sure that's going to really, your white and your black for your highlights and your shadows are what are helping convince the viewer that this is three-dimensional. So you want to kind of put those back here and there. And then last, clean up anywhere you got a smudge you didn't want it. And then think about, do I want any ambient light out around the lava lamp as well? And I tend to like that. I think I'm going to take some of my pink instead of my orange because I already did my orange. And I'm going to throw it in the outside. Also maybe going to put a little bit more of it in here. Not a whole lot, but a little more. Brighten up some of my pink. Just a little bit more. Remove any fingerprints that I don't want. And you know, that's part of learning to work with this medium. I mean, some of I teach AP, and some of my AP students, you know, do their entire portfolio in Rembrandt pastels, most expensive thing on the market, and they're great. But they also do this. So this is not about cheap versus, you know, expensive. This is this medium, but it's so great for so many things. Then how blended out you make things, that can be kind of a stylistic choice. I'm going to blend this out a good bit because I just like it that way. Okay. So, what a mess. And again, don't let your kiddos, adults, whoever, because we want to do it too. Don't let them take a wet cloth and try to clean it off. It's so tempting, but it's not, it doesn't really look good when it dries. It only looks good while it's still wet.
I feel like I'm a hot mess, and I feel like my paper's a hot mess.
You will feel like that. And I'll tell them, it's like cleaning out your closet. It's
Oh,
going to get worse before it gets better. But you got to push through. So, that is how we do that. Again, at this point, there might be students who hate this. I mean, they may hate it. Some just, you know, you can do clay, which is one of, you know, most students' favorite things. And then they just don't want to touch it. We were doing handmade paper and they were like, oh, gross, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I would have loved to do this. But I make them push through it anyway. And I have to say, it's one of my kids' favorite things, absolute favorite things. I think I can screen share while you're finishing up real quick and show you a video. I can go to that part of the video real quick and show you a whole like class set. Let's see, would it be this one? Yeah.
I put the attendance sheet link in the chat. If everybody would please just click and fill it out, or at least open it up, and then you can fill it out when we close out.
All right, so see how those are looking now that you can see these kind of close up. Not all of them are perfect when you look at them up close, but they are getting the job done. But here is a class set. I think I showed it on the practice video, and I'll just go to it. Start.
The way the light source is in this room.
Hold on a sec.
I
Oh,
that
goodness.
kind of next to one.
I thought it was gonna let
I
me
want you
just
to notice
arrow over.
the shapes, and we're here.
There,
But we're
okay.
gonna
I found it.
model up. I'll show you. Zoom
So
back
it's
so
about
you
to
can
show it.
see. Gonna make a lava lamp. My students have been.
There's
making
the
them.
whole
Put
set.
them up
And see,
there.
they're all largely
gonna
very
play with the
successful.
color scheme.
So, and that was like 2 classes worth of kids. So it was easy. So that was probably about
Lava lamp.
55
So we want to do
students.
some guided practice. You can
So
see.
let me see if I can come back to you and get out of share. But what questions do you have? That's all that I have. Besides Stephanie telling me how I can get you guys the presentation. Can I throw it? Maybe I can throw it in the chat, the link?
You can put the link in the chat,
Okay,
absolutely.
let me do that.
Yep.
So hold on one little sec, because I don't remember how I got there. Let me minimize a sec.
Now, this link is only for live attendees, right? So, because we want you to have your teacher's page.
That's up to you. That's up to you. Look, I'm a teacher first, and teachers, we are sharers. So if you want to give it to everyone, then that's okay with me.
How about we do this? If they email me and ask me for it,
Okay.
I will give it. Otherwise, you
Okay,
deserve
I'm comfortable with that.
to earn your little piece of the
I
teacher's paycheck.
appreciate that.
Sure.
All right, let me go to copy the link. And I'm gonna come back here. And here it comes in the chat. There you go.
Thank you so
And a
much.
lesson plan. Oh, I can't figure out what side of my face is. Do y'all ever do that? Like, it's not like a mirror.
I have a question.
Yes.
Aside from economics,
Mhm.
is there a reason that you couldn't use the Rembrandt pastels for this project?
No, in fact, they would be beautiful. And it is for me, just that is the only reason is economics, because so usually I have classes of 30, and so the last time I did it with 2 classes. And so it would be, plus in art 1, they haven't learned how to take care of materials.
Right.
So that's why I wouldn't, but yes, I mean, they would be stunning.
I only have private students, and
It's good.
I have 800 Rembrandt pastels, and I don't have the other pastels. So for me, economically,
Yeah, that would be amazing, amazing, amazing.
And do you think I would do it on black Canson paper?
I love, especially if you can use the Canson Miton, the one that has that tooth. Oh, I love that.
I love that too. I use that for my colored. That's what I used for my colored pencil just now. But I think I would love to do that with. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the little plastic cover. Oh, it's going to be so
That'd be
cool.
awesome.
I love
It'd be
this.
So much fun. So much fun.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything else? Okay. Well, Stephanie, I'm going to hand it back over to you. And I have really enjoyed my time with you. If you have students and would like to follow me, on Art Queen Sandy was Instagram. I'm Art Queen Sandy on there. There's links to a lot of things, a lot of tutorials on there, a lot of my student work on there, but it's Art Queen Sandy, is my Instagram. And then I also have a website, just for my students. So you can see, my Instagram is only student. It's only art. It's not a personal Instagram. It's just only my art student stuff. But also artqueensandy.com is my website. I don't sell things off of my website. It's just so you can see what I do in my classroom.
Could we do a share out? I'd love to see what everybody did. I took your spotlight off so I could see
Yeah, let's
everybody
do
else.
that.
So I'm gonna hold mine up, which is a hot mess.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It looks like, you know what? It looks like a candy corn.
Oh, I like the colors. That's awesome. Look
Oh
at
my
these.
God.
These are so fun.
Are awesome. Oh, I love
Good
them.
time. A good time.
We did good, you guys.
We
This is
did.
great. I love it.
We did.
Don't forget to fill out, to click on the link for the form so you could get your CTLE credit and certificate. Hopefully my partners will get it out to you by midweek, hopefully. I can't control that, but they will get the information from me. So Norma, try again, or you can email me and I will fill in the form for you. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? No? Sandy, you are the queen.
Oh, thank you. Only because I got married to one. I mean, that
You are
doesn't
an
sound
art
good. does
teacher
it?
wizard, and we love this lesson, even
I'm
though I'm
so
covered
glad.
in pastel
Yeah.
dust. But this was great, and thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your time with us.
You are
Much, much,
quite
much
welcome, everyone.
appreciated.
Thank you for letting me come. I'm going to sign off and go home.
All right, you
Have
earned
a
it.
great
Have a
night.
great night. And
Thanks.
look for the email for next week's event. It's a miniature 3D dream bedroom with Robin Weiss. So join us next week, and I'll be sending out the flyers over the weekend. All right, have a good weekend. Stay safe, everybody. See you next week.